Did you know children are born into prison camps and taught to betray their own parents? In North Korea's Yodok concentration camp, entire families disappear for 3 generations because of political crimes. Satellite images and defector testimonies reveal the shocking truth inside these hidden camps. The Kim family was loaded onto cattle cars in the dead of night, not knowing their destination. Children born behind the barbed wire never see the outside world, only forced labor in coal mines. Public executions happen for stealing a handful of corn or speaking the wrong words. The guards control every piece of information, breaking minds through constant fear. Kids are rewarded for reporting their parents' private conversations to authorities. Execution methods include hanging, shooting, and beating prisoners to death in front of others. Starvation is so severe that inmates eat grass, bark, and anything they can find. Families watch each other waste away, powerless to help. An estimated 200,000 people have died in these camps. The most horrifying part? They're still operating today.
You want to know how minor, as per infractions, that you can get if that were to happen to you? Well, let me expand upon more intrinsically as what I'm conveying, right? Let's say if you do something benign that is not even equivalent as a crime whatsoever here. So that said, my point with this video is that any minor things that you do in life, let's say if it's relatively benign as per you're doing it in your own life and you're not impeding on anybody nor the state, that's what happens in North Korea. But then again, when it comes to internment camps or camps like that in general, it's always been a hypocritical thing throughout history, because the West, yes, unfortunately, did that in their past as well. It's just that when it comes to North Korea, they're a communist state that is not religious whatsoever. They're all a bunch of atheists, hence more of the ire and that animosity with it. I'm not agreeing nor accepting how they conduct that over there, but I find it really, 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 really weird, or the fixation of it, just because North Korea is a communist nation, but it's fine. It's how the fucking world works, sadly.
Did you know the deadliest bridge collapse in history happened not once but twice on the same project? On August 29, 1907, 75 workers were building the Quebec Bridge when something went terribly wrong. Chief Engineer Theodore Cooper had been sending desperate warnings about dangerous structural stress for weeks. Workers reported hearing metal screaming under pressure, steel beams visibly bending downward. Cooper fired off urgent telegrams to stop construction immediately, but his message arrived 11 minutes too late. At 5:37 in the afternoon, workers felt the entire bridge moving beneath their feet. The sound was deafening, like thunder mixed with tearing metal as massive steel sections twisted apart. Men ran desperately as the structure collapsed section by section, plunging 150 feet into the icy St. Lawrence River below. 75 bodies were scattered across the frozen water. But here's the truly horrifying part. During reconstruction 9 years later, the replacement bridge also collapsed. 13 more workers died, making it North America's deadliest bridge project in history.
Yeah, I heard about this. Like, the way how the layout of this bridge was being built at the time, all in all, like the structural integrity of how the way it was built, let alone the material of it, it never really materialized in one way or another, because it always ended up with accidents, in which case it was prone to having construction workers getting hurt on the job. Therefore, in which case, I think the project got abandoned, but I'm not too sure entirely that if it did, just because of this. And to make my last point with this, right? It's I personally believe, like, this is my opinion, that you know at the time they were just cutting corners and just trying to save money in terms of making the bridge being built proper or fast on time as per whatever schedule they may have or had at the time.
Did you know a Soviet surgeon created real-life two-headed dogs and broadcasted on live television? Between 1954 and 1959, Vladimir Demikov performed over 20 grotesque experiments that seemed impossible. He would take a puppy's head and front legs, then surgically graft them onto an adult dog's neck. The procedure involved connecting blood vessels and airways with terrifying precision. Both heads could eat and drink at the same time, creating a nightmare with two separate personalities in one body. Some of these creatures survived for 29 days, both brains fully conscious and aware. The psychological horror was unimaginable. Two minds trapped together, unable to escape. Demikov performed these operations on live Soviet television as propaganda, showing the world their surgical superiority. The dogs would fight each other for food, their heads snapping at one another in confusion and terror. Despite the ethical violations, his research directly contributed to the first successful human heart transplants. Science fiction became horrifying reality in a Moscow laboratory. The boundaries between medical breakthrough and monstrous experimentation had completely disappeared.
Yeah, that was actually a thing back in the day during the 50s, during the time of the Soviet Union, in which case, even though I cannot convey the length and the depravity of what this guy did with those animals, right? But all in all, right, it just comes to show you that how intense most people are in certain points of history, let alone particularly when it comes to the Cold War aspects as well. Because even though it wasn't needed, but suffice to say that in one way or another, that in terms of this video, it just gave more of a manifestation in terms of medical innovation and scientific achievement in some sense, but it's just how it was conveyed and conducted at the time, even though it's categorically immoral and just wrong in general for doing that.
What if Operation Keelhaul had been expanded to include all Eastern Europeans instead of just Soviet citizens? In 1945, British and American forces forcibly returned 2.5 million Soviet nationals to Stalin's regime. Many refugees knew what awaited them and chose suicide over repatriation. But imagine if this policy had included every Polish, Czech, and Hungarian refugee seeking Western protection. Millions more would have been loaded onto trains heading straight to Soviet gulags. The psychological horror of Western soldiers physically dragging screaming families to certain death would have shattered Allied moral authority. Stalin would have gained control over populations far beyond his original sphere, extending the Iron Curtain deep into Central Europe. The Cold War would have begun with America and Britain as active collaborators in Soviet mass murder. European demographics would have been permanently altered as entire ethnic groups disappeared into the Gulag system. Instead of being champions of freedom, the West would have been remembered as enablers of genocide. The moral foundation of NATO and the Marshall Plan would have crumbled before they even began.
Okay, the reason why I'm laughing, right, is that this video, through and through, is riddled with hypocrisy. Because you want to know why? Throughout the entirety of recorded history, particularly with Western civilization in general, in different variations, in different accounts as per throughout its history, let alone whether it's here, the West, or in the East, in terms with Russia and China, they have always done that, no matter what the circumstances or the time period it may occur in, albeit during World War II, the 19th century, early 20th century with the Boer Wars. There's like a whole plethora. But my point is, right, even if that was the case, and if it would have become a actuality in some capacity, it still didn't fucking matter because that hypocrisy is still lingering today. Just look at the state of the world. Take a good, clear example. Well, case in point of what I'm talking about, what's going on in the world at the moment, with regards to the Middle East. Yeah, I really fucked up that wording right there. G-side. Every culture and every prominent major warring power throughout history, even the ones now concurrently, have done it in their past. And nobody wants to admit nor agree, and let alone be reluctant to say that, hey, you know, what we did in the past, as per what our ancestors, as what they did to specific ethnic groups and individuals, yeah, we're sorry. Oh, we apologize. Here's some restitution for you. Now, that's a conversation for another day, but I hope all of you get the point of what I'm trying to convey out of my fucking mouth.